What was it like working for Cale?
Cale's awesome, dude.
Really?
I don't even know why I went there. I don't know. Maybe I was just hunting a job, and I knew they didn't have nobody, or I don't know how I got there. But maybe Cale called me. I don't remember. Maybe Cale called me. I don't. Was Rick there? Rick was there when I went. Was Rick there when I went? Or did Rick come?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head without looking at it.
I think Rick was there when I went.
Okay.
And I got to get something to drink.
All right.
I'm not selling them. That's not my sponsor.
Yeah.
And maybe that's how the connection came. But I went over there, and Tony Furr had left, and Jeremy had left, and Andretti, and they'd had all that. But Cale just wanted it took care of. Now, he was never there. He came in. He met me there that day, and he said, I need you. Rick's driving, and Tony runs a motor shop. So did Bob, helps Tony. And, what was the parts guy's name? He'd been there forever. I'm ashamed I can't remember his name. Old guy ran the parts department. And really, he was Cale's eyes.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll call and tell you what next race we're going to go to. And here's keys to the shop. And he left and went back to home.
Talking about Cale.
Yeah. And I would never see him except at the racetrack. Hardly never came to the shop. He just wanted it took care of. And Tony and Soda Bob, they took care of all the motor stuff. And we took care of all the car stuff. And we started going. That was a vague time where I don't remember a whole lot. I don't know why, but maybe we didn't have it. Maybe we didn't run that good. But we were hit and miss and did a little bit there. And some reason Rick left. I don't know why. I don't know if Cale asked Rick to leave or if Rick left because Rick wanted to left. And I don't even know where Rick went after that. But Rick left and Rich Bickle came over for a little bit. Either before or after, I don't know. But we did pretty good, and we made most of the races we went to. We were never going to win a race. We didn't have enough crew members or enough motors. And then he partnered up with a guy who owned some dealerships down toward Darlington, who ended up being a crook. And he brought Waddell in. So then it caused a bunch of issues because Waddell thought he ran everything from that guy's side. And I thought I run everything from Cale's side.
Yeah.
And then finally in the end, that guy didn't have no money. He could never come up with all the money. And so Cale had to run him off. And then I do remember this distinctively. I think Marlene was the lady's name, ran the front office. And she said, Cale's on the phone. Well, anytime Cale went on the phone, I'd go to my office, shut the door, close the blinds, That's Cale, man.
Yeah.
Freaking Cale Yarborough, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to see him every day, but this is Cale Yarborough that's calling me, right?
Right.
And he's my boss. But it's Cale. And he said, I can't do it no more. You got to stop the bleeding. And I was like, what do you mean? And he said, it's over. I'm shutting the doors. I said, now this was 99, so, or 98. So I'm 30.
99, I think.
Yeah, beginning of 99, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm 32 years old. And you want me to go tell a bunch of grown men that's 40 years old, been doing this their whole life, that today's it and we're locking the door? That's the hardest thing I ever had to do.
Wow.
To do that.
Wow.
And so.
Had you seen it coming?
Everybody saw it coming.
Yeah.
We didn't have no sponsor. This guy just pulled a fast one, you know, and I respect Cale. I wouldn't do it. I mean, I wouldn't. It's at some point it has to be a little bit of a business, you know. I wouldn't have done it, but a backstory on all that, right? So, if you know a little history about Ricky, all right.
Ricky Rudd.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right. So all the way back when I was at Lake Speeds, Ricky Rudd was starting his own team.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So he was still driving for Rick to finish out the season. So he didn't have a building. He didn't have a place to work. He didn't have no cars. So we were kind of running good over at Lakes, and we were going to win that race at Charlotte if we hadn't broke a gear that year. But to help pay us, Lake works a deal with Ricky for us to build his cars.
I did not know that.
So we were building cars at Lake Shop for Rudd and the Tide, which was the 10.
Yeah.
We were building cars. And so we had some new stuff on them cars that nobody else had. Some lightweight push lock hoses, a lot of different things that were done on them cars that never been done before. We had a lot of help from hose manufacturers and Steve Heinz from Heinz Performance. He was involved with that, and that's how I met him. But so me and Ricky kind of started developing a little relationship. So Ricky's crew chief's name was Bill Engel, right? And Bill was Ricky's crew chief about 15 times. They would get mad and Bill would quit, and Bill would go back. So every time, there's a moral to the story, but every time Bill would quit, Ricky would call me. But I would have a job.
Yeah.
And either somebody else would come over there or Bill would come back. It wasn't 15, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And this went on and on back and forth forever. Well, in 99 was Rudd's last year as a car owner. Todd was leaving, and he couldn't find a sponsorship. And I think for the most part, he was pretty much done with the whole owner tag on his shirt, you know what I mean? And Bill left. Half the crew left. Same old deal. Ricky needs to finish out a year to finish his commitment with Tide, and he don't know what to do. So, now you ain't asking no questions. I'm doing all the talking.
Well, I've got the questions on my list, so you're answering my questions.
So
I'm just not asking them.
So when things ended at Kales, I took about 2 weeks off, and Rudd calls and says, "Hey, come down here and let's have some lunch." And I went down to her shop and we hung out and talked. So the timing finally happened, where I went to work for Rudd at RPM. Now we knew at the end of the season it was over.
So you knew going in that
it was
Ricky
over.
was done. Okay.
But it was an opportunity. I mean, to work with Ricky.
Right. Was Yates in the picture yet?
No.
Okay. All right.
Not even nothing.
Okay.
So, and this is how focused I always was on what I was trying to do. I wasn't really worried about the future. I knew that we were doing everything we could to win him a race, because he'd won one every year up till then. And we kept getting close, and we kept getting close, and we kept getting close. And I think we had the best car at Martinsville. I don't know where he finished that year at Martinsville. I think we had the best car, but something happened and put us a lap down early, and we didn't get our lap back till almost the end of the race, and we finished like either second or third in 99. I don't know what year it was. And we ran good at Phoenix, and we had good races, but we never got that win. But that's all we were. That's all I was focused on. All we were focused on, and we finished out the year. And, you know, happy to do our day. Everybody, it was over. So, when did Robert come in? No, I'll tell you how we got. I'll tell you. I remember now. I'll tell you how we got involved with Robert. Is we got a motor from him. Either I know we ran one of the Speedway, we ran one of the Daytonas with it, so it would have to have been July. Maybe that was the first motor. I wish I had my Ricky Rudd stats right here, but that's how we got involved with them. Was they started supplying motors for Rudd. I think it was Daytona, it might have been Talladega, but anyway, that's how we became involved with them. And then at the end of the year, they asked Rudd to come over and drive. Well, I had interviewed with Larry Mack years before that. And they never went anywhere, so I just figured Rudd was going over there and I was going to have to go find me another job. You know,
yeah.
That's the way the industry was back then. Didn't really think a whole lot about it. And then me and my wife were getting married in November, and maybe a week or 2 weeks before we got married, Robert called.
There's a wedding present.
You think? And wanted to know if I'd be interested in crew chief. And I didn't jump up and down and scream, but I wanted to.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it made me realize that here's my shot. I had been here and been there, and we had some of the pieces and some of the parts. But this was my shot. I was going somewhere where we had all the pieces and all the parts. And if we didn't have them, we could get them because everybody wanted to work there.
Yeah.
And that was, we got married and went to Disney for our honeymoon. We're Disney fans, me and my wife. And I couldn't stand it. We cut it short. A couple of days.
Did you really?
Yeah. Came home, caught an early flight, come home, and went to work.
At Roberts.
At Roberts.
So you cut your honeymoon short to go to work for Robert Yates.
Yep. I did.
Oh, man.
And a lot of people don't know, man, but you know, they had been kicked out of the big shop over off of I think it's exit 33 where the bread company is.
Yeah.
In Charlotte. You know, that's where Robert Yates Racing was forever. Off of exit 33 on 85, not exit 33 in Morton. Yeah. Whatever happened, but basically Todd told him he couldn't win a championship as long as he was having to look after the 28 car too. And so the 28 car was moved. So we were in a building, used to be a road that ran down. You know where DW's shop used to be?
Yeah.
If you went on past DW's
near the
shop,
raceway.
Yep.
Near
if you went on past the DW shop, there was an old shop down there on the left, kind of, we called it in the hole, but it was kind of in a hole down there. Robert rented that building. And we had to move cars to work on cars. That's how packed we were in there. And we stayed there most of that first year, but he had bought Ricky's place and was remodeling it.
Okay.
And then we were going to move in there. But, man, I couldn't wait to go to work over there.
How much of a difference was there? You had been in the sport about 10 years at that time, and you had been with teams that weren't necessarily the top of the food chain, but you go to work for Robert Yates Racing, and they were still pretty much top dog in the garage at that time. Like you said, if you needed it, you got it. How much of a change was that for you?
Tremendous, because I had to change my mentality. So when we worked on cars then at all these other teams, we fixed parts. So if a part was bad, or say a hub had a wheel stud loose in it, right, we'd repair that hub. We would tighten it up, maybe weld it up, re-drill it, press the stud in, put set screws in it, whatever we had to do to hold the stud in, so we didn't have to buy a new hub. At Roberts, this wasn't that way. If something was bad, it was bad. You got rid of it. That was a change, to have to look at parts differently. If you wanted to try something, you just bought it and tried it. We didn't have that luxury at Kales or any of those other places I worked. So it was new. We did lots of testing, and we ran good right out of the bat. We back then in the early 2000s, we could test pretty much all we wanted, and we did. Robert believed in testing. I believed in working. So we got along really good, and we tested a lot. We did motor tests. We did aero tests. We ran the wind tunnel a lot. And back then, the crew chief was involved in all of it. It's not like now where, you got somebody doing every one of those steps. Back then, the crew chief was involved in every step. And I've spent many nights in the floor of the wind tunnel at Lockheed Martin doing the 12-hour shift, because our shifts were always the midnight shifts. That's what they give to the race teams.
Yeah.
The nighttime shifts. So very rarely did we have a daytime shift. But it was just a new experience. Now we didn't have an overabundance of money, but Robert's theory always is he wouldn't waste money on frills. He would waste his money on the cars.
Yeah.
So we didn't always have the nicest uniforms. We didn't always have the nicest truck. We didn't always have the nicest pit wagon. But we did always have the nicest race cars and the nicest motor parts and the best transmissions and the best rear ends and the best carburetors. We always had that stuff. But we might not have, everybody might not have matching shoes on pit road or matching gloves on pit road. But we did have the nicest race cars and the best wheels and all the tires we needed. It was definitely a change.
With all that being said, you go to Pocono in June of 2001, and you go to Victory Lane for the first time in your career.
Yep.
What do you remember about that day and that weekend?
In 2000, we had almost, I don't know how many times.
Yeah.
Even the next to last race here at Phoenix, Rick got into it with somebody, and we run into him. But
Ricky Rudd got into it with somebody?
No.
Surely not.
No, Rick Mast.
Okay.
Somebody had gotten we were leading.
Gotcha.
We were leading.
Yeah.
But anyway, we had almost, I don't know how many times in 99, sat on the pole at Vegas, sat on the outside front row at Daytona, won the twin 125. So that car, we spent most of the year building that car for high-speed flat tracks. Uniquely enough, it was an old car that we had picked up out of the scrap pile behind the 88 shop. They had started building their own cars. This was a Hopkins car that was a twin to one of our favorite cars. And so we took it to the shop and did what we do to, asked Robert, can we have it? And he said, yeah, they don't want it. And so we took it to the shop and did what we do. Pete Peterson and Brillo and all those guys, they did their magic, and we put it all together. And Ronnie Hoover was my body guy then. One of the greatest body guys I ever had, if not the. And I was hard on him. I mean, I was hard on people. I loved them. I'd take it to dinner and we'd drink all the beer you wanted to drink. But when it come time to work, I wanted this done and this job done, and it didn't matter what we had to do, we were going to do it. So we were testing Watkins Glen, I think, and I get a phone call. It was Hoover. He said, "Hey man, we got a problem." I said, "Okay, I'm listening." He said, "The car, we hung the body at the wrong frame heights." I said, "Excuse me?" He said, "We put the body on at the wrong frame heights." And I said, "I'll call you back." So me and Robert, we sat down and we started in the trailer, and we pretty much halted the test to figure this out. And we come up with a plan, and Robert's like, "Well, we're going home." He said, "We can add over here and make that rocker." And I said, "But we can't fix the cow, Robert." And I said, "Let me tell you what we're going to do." And he said, "What?" I said, "We're going to cut the body loose." I had flashbacks from Daytona. We're going to cut the body loose all the way off the frame except for the left side. We're going to lower the frame, and then we're going to put it back together and patch the firewalls and all that stuff in. He said, "Yeah, that might work." So I called Hoover and I said, "Here's what you're going to do." All right. Hoover had already decided that we weren't taking that car, and it can't happen. I said, "Hoover, here's what you're going to do." I said, "You're going to put the car on the frame plate, put 1-inch blocks under it. You're going to hold the body all the way around, cut everything loose except for the left side post and the left side rocker panel. You're going to cut the firewall all the way through the middle. There's always an extender they use to connect the body to the chassis. You're going to cut all the way through that. You're going to cut through the rear package tray. You're going to take them blocks down and set the frame down, and you're going to fill all that back in." And he said, "You're sure?" I said, "Nope, I'm positive. That's what I want you to do." And so they did. They worked all night, and we finished testing, and we flew home. And we got the car done. We got on the truck and went to Pocono. So I don't know if
So this was all right before Pocono.
This is Monday. We were
Before
in Watkins Glen. Pete and Brillo and them were setting the car up when they discovered it.
Wow.
And we flew home and everything, and then we went to Pocono. So I don't know if you remember being there or not, but we unloaded that thing, and it was a freaking rocket. I'm talking about. Schrader used to run good at Pocono back then, and I don't remember the speeds, if it was a 50-10 or I don't remember what we ran, but let's just say it was a 50. Say 50 flat was good, but Schrader would run a 51 flat, and Ricky would run a 50-70, and then Schrader would run a 50-60, and Ricky would run a 50-40. And it just went on, and we just destroyed everybody in practice that morning. And I think back then we had 2 practices. But anyway, then we qualified, and we just freaking destroyed them. It wasn't even close. And we sat on the pole. And then we changed over and went to race trim. You know, I was always I love qualifying. I almost love winning a pole as much as winning a race. It's like my thing.
Yeah.
But then we went to race trim, got everything ready, and went out, and we won the first practice. We were the fastest car. He said, "This thing drives itself." And then we won the second practice, a happy hour, we called it back then. And I think back then we changed motors on race day always, because back then we had, the motors were really tricked. And we just had a good day that day, even during the race. I mean, we had decent pit stops. He got in a comfortable place and just kind of sat there. He didn't lead. I don't remember if we led the most laps or not. But he got at one point during the race toward the end, he got in a comfortable place and just kind of sat there. And Ricky was always that way. If he, we used to say if he could sniff it, you had a shot. But he would just get there and kind of get, get in a comfortable place, where nobody was around him. And he just rode. And when it got time to go, he just went. And he drove around them, and we won the race. And it was a very emotional time, obviously. I had worked. At that time, that would have been 2001, so I'd have been 67, or 97, 98, 99, 2001. So I'd have been 34 years old. I started racing, I'd been 34. I started racing cars messing around race cars when I was about 15. And I had won some short track stuff, helping my buddies or whatever, but a 30-something-year-old kid from Lattimore, North Carolina, just won the Pocono 500. So we won. Yeah. It was super emotional. Like I said, I wasn't supposed to be there. About half my guys wasn't supposed to be there. Most of the racing world had washed Ricky up, or he was one of those he's on his way out kind of guys, And those same people were stopping by Victory Lane on the way out of town to congratulate us. And it was all special. My wife was there. She wouldn't have ever raced, but she happened to be there. Most everybody I ever worked for or with or around stopped by Victory Lane to congratulate us. Earnhardt came by. It was just special. That first race win is special. But it was short-lived. Like I said, we worked pretty hard back then. So never really had a victory celebration other than right there because the crew went home, and me and Ricky went to a test. So they went home, had victory parties, and we went on to a test the next day.
You won again at Richmond in September.
Mm-hmm.
And this new kid, Kevin Harvick, got into Ricky for the lead.
And it's a great story right here, man.
And then Ricky got into him
Yeah.
to retake the lead, and eventually he won. What was it like to watch a race like that from the pits?
Okay, so we had a good car all weekend again. That was the sister car that I was telling you about to the Pocono car.
Okay.
All right, so we had a good weekend all weekend, and Ricky always runs good at short tracks, especially Richmond, because it's somewhat of a home track for him. At the point we had worked our way up until when we were leading, and I don't remember how much was left when that happened, but it was right after a restart when they had bunched us all back up. It was right after a restart, and new kid on the block, Kevin Harvick, was on our bumper, and like you say, he hit Ricky. I mean, he intended to knock him out of the way. He didn't rub him a little bit. He knocked the crap out of him, and it was our race to win. We already knew it. It was our race to lose, I should say. We had to do something wrong, either in the pits or somewhere, to lose that race. That's how good we were. It's a great story, man. This is not. You might get an award for this one. My NASCAR official's name was John Mazzarelli.
Okay.
Little short guy.
Yeah.
Right? Great dude. Even temperament. You couldn't really make him mad. He was just perfect guy. And I got off the top of the pit box, and I walked down the steps. And I walked out on pit road, and I gave him the finger, and I said, come here. And he said, yeah. And I said, you call the tower, and you tell them that they better be in victory lane, because I'm going to whip Harvick's fucking ass in victory lane when this race is over with. And he said, I can't tell them that. I said, you need to tell them to meet me down there, because
Paraphrase.
I'm going to beat his ass. You hear me? Right down there. And I climbed back up on the wagon and went back up and sat down and started watching the race. And about that time, going down into 3 and 4, Ricky washed Harvick all the way back up the racetrack. And I climbed back down the wagon, back down the step, went back out on pit road, and said, John, come here. And he said, what? He was shaking at that point, because like I say, he was real even-tempered. He said, what? What? I said, disregard my first message. And then we went back up, and then we won the race.
You know, I might not ought to say this
Yeah.
because a journalist is always supposed to be objective, but I kind of sort of hate that Ricky won the race.
I'm sure. And Harvick's my friend, and you know what?
Because
I don't know that.
one more heck of a show.
I don't even know that he knows that.
Yeah,
Harvick.
yeah,
To this, well, obviously, if he happens to hear this, he'll know it. But
yeah.
he didn't know it up till this point. Yeah, I was mad, man. It's just so hard to win.
Yeah. I understand completely. Yeah.
And so, like I said before, I ain't supposed to be there. Half that team ain't supposed to be there. Todd and them kicked them out of the 88, out of the Robert's shop, and we were just a bunch of has-been, never won't be's, and we were winning, and we were running good, and we were running good in the points.
That does bring up a question. For the first time, you were part of a team that was capable of running up front each and every week.
Yeah.
But it was also the first time that you had ever worked with a teammate, with a second team that I'm aware of.
Yes.
What was it like with that kind of dynamic in place, having another team? Or did you even consider them a teammate? How did that work?
Most of the time we were teammates. You know, I don't know if you have any siblings or not, but you love them all the time and you like them most of the time. And that was kind of what it was like. Is we went in there in 2000, and everybody, of course, everybody in the beginning has super open minds, but we worked really hard together at Daytona, and we both ran good. We sat on the front row, which was pretty phenomenal to sit on the front row, two teammates. But anyway, we sat on the front row, and we won the 125, and we ran it. We had a good Daytona, and we, for the most part, we helped each other. There were times that we learned things as the season went on where maybe everyone wasn't always honest and forthcoming with all their information. Back then, there wasn't a general manager like there is now. You know, like at Gibbs, they got Maycar, and he makes sure that everyone's upfront and honest. I don't know that we had that. It seemed like a lot of it was one-sided, but you know, we found ways to work through it, and we both had pretty good seasons. A couple of times they made some decisions I wasn't happy about, but we dealt with it.
You've made the comment a couple of times that you got kicked out of the shop.
I wasn't there then.
By the 88.
The 28 did.
Okay.
That's prior to me going.
Now, was that just because the 88 was running well at the time and in contention?
Todd's theory was, I think it happened at the end of 98.
Okay.
But Todd's theory was that he couldn't win a championship having to support the 28 also. That's what he told Robert. So they and I use the term kicked out kind of loosely, but
Yeah.
they chose to take those two teams and put them in different locations so that Todd could focus on trying to win a championship. And it must have worked because they won in '99, right?
Yeah.
And so, but the 28 was kind of rebuilding then. That's when Larry Mack had left and Ernie had left and Kenny was there. And, Kenny's was a great guy, don't get me wrong. But they never could get going, and they had a lot of things going on. And Todd felt like he was carrying part of the burden. And so they separated. So they became two teams. They weren't teammates, but they were. And we weren't teammates, but we were, because we weren't in the same building. Really, we shared a motor shop.
We talked about Richmond, and as awesome as that story was about you threatening to kick Harvick's butt.
I probably should have not used that language. Maybe you can bleep me out on that.
No, man, I can't afford a bleep
My
button.
mom will get me.
I can't afford a bleep button. The thing that I will always remember about that race, however, is the fact that it was the last one before 9/11.
Oh, yeah.
That was Saturday night, and the attacks took place on Tuesday. So, again, you didn't really get to enjoy that victory very long.
No, it was that was a terrible, unforgettable time in all our lives, people of our age. And
9/11 is my birthday.
really,
Yeah.
it changed. People think that COVID changed the world as we know it, but in the United States of America, 9/11 really changed our lives. You remember what it was like before then. It was going to the airport or going whatever.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as security, unless the president was going to be there, and even then it was loose. But it was a moment in time that made us realize that things weren't like we thought they were. You want to believe, I do anyway. You want to believe the best of everyone and the best of everything, and you believe that people respect humanity, but they really don't. And those little instances in time prove to us that people don't respect humanity, and they don't really care.